Hello everyone, my name is Phawx. We're going to be taking a look at Chimera OS running on the AYANEO Air 1S. This is going to be running AMD's latest 7840U, which has the 780M GPU that's on here. Chimera OS is a distro that aims to be very SteamOS-like and will actually support a lot of different models that are pretty much very much handheld-like. So a lot of the AYANEO devices, the 1X player types of devices, things that aren't ideal to be running on a Windows gaming PC, Chimera OS tries to adopt SteamOS-like functionality and make SteamOS run on one of these devices so that you can have an overall better experience running on your device. Now, there are some issues running Chimera OS on the AYANEO Air 1S. We're going to get to those in just a moment, but one of the big standout things here is that sound doesn't work. However, we do have, you can see right here, that the Steam button works as well as the quick access menu works. This is running the unstable build, the latest version that is available to Chimera OS. However, sound still does not work down there. The devs are always working on all these types of devices, so eventually support will come there. All of the updates and stuff happen directly in the interface itself, so it's very, very SteamOS-like, very, very Steam Deck-like. It's not even just for handhelds. You could also use this for like mini PCs if you wanted to use it as a gaming PC for your living room. That is also a worthwhile situation that you'd be looking to use this particular OS. So Chimera OS does a lot of neat things, and I don't think it's perfect for the AYANEO Air 1S. There are a few things that we need to talk about. Number one, even with the unstable build and all the idiot overrides, everything that's there right now, sound still isn't working on this device. However, it does automatically do all the rotations for the display itself because the OLED panel is actually inverted portrait, so it's 270 degrees rotated. I didn't have to do anything. Chimera OS kind of just already understood it and did it correctly, which was great. Again, sound isn't working there, but we do have the Steam menu working as well as the quick access menu that comes out here. Now, the quick access menu, a lot of the features do work there. However, TDP control isn't working, and I know that there is that handy GCPS tool that can work on this particular device. I haven't set that up, but I wanted to frame this context because SteamOS does a very good job with automatically doing power configuration, automatically handling power in a very intelligent manner when running games. And it looks like that's not the case for AMD 7840U running this distro, even with the latest kernel. What we're seeing here is, and again, when we go into the game demo, the scheduler seems to be unaware of how AMD 7840U wants to run, whereas AMD advertises what are its performance cores and which aren't their performance cores. And it should be running on performance cores whenever you want to run high frequency, because those are going to be the most efficient cores to run them on. What we're looking at, when I'm looking at it through their own HUD, it looks like it's kind of doing a round robin and kind of going to every core, which is not very efficient for this particular chipset. Now, this can be fixed and could also use different schedulers as well, but what we're looking at right now is what I'm reporting on. Additionally, the other thing I wanted to take a look at was even running games like indie games like Dead Cells, how does power scale? And unfortunately, it doesn't scale all that well. We're actually getting better power scaling when it applies to 3D games. However, with the latest RAD-V drivers and everything that are coming out, we still need better support for RDNA 3 on these types of chipsets. But I was just going to show you how this runs at the current time and give you a little bit of insight on how those games run. So let's get into it. All right, so here we are. We're testing the AYANEO Air 1S. This is Chimera OS, which acts as SteamOS. This is like the easiest way to get SteamOS up on another device. And for the most part, it was pretty turnkey. Now, it isn't a perfect solution for the Air 1S specifically right now because I don't get sound out on this device, but everything else is working. So like if you can see, I can press the AYANEO button and that brings up the Steam button, and the secondary button that's right over here brings up the quick access menu. So you can quickly and easily just jump between these two right here at these buttons, which is really nice to see. So we're going to go ahead and test out some games. Now, we installed Cyberpunk because Cyberpunk runs really, really well through DXVK, through Vulkan and Proton. So we're going to see how this operates. I want to just do a quick benchmark. All right, so here we are in Cyberpunk 2077, and you can clearly see on your top left of the screen that you're going to be looking at all the metrics that are from the 7840U running on the AYANEO Air 1S right now. So we have 16 threads, 8 cores, so you see all those CPUs listed up there. You see all the GPU and CPU metrics. You can see how much power the CPU and GPU is taken. We can take a look at directly at how much power is being taken from the battery itself. That means the total system power complete from the system. Now, we're not running the display out here, so that is being exported to what you are looking at right now. So we are not really capturing that data of how much power will be coming off the display itself, so that would be some extra bit there. We're looking at like between 1 watt to 2 watts, maybe 3 watts tops, that would be added on top there. So you're looking at around 28.9 watts, so 29 watts total. You go to like 31 watts at this particular setting. Now, unfortunately, if we go into the quick access menu, none of the actual TDP scaling works. So if I go here, this maxes out at 15 watt, which wouldn't really matter for the AYANEO 1S at all. But if we go down to like 3 watts, you can see that nothing actually changes. So this is, at the current moment, not supported via Chimera OS on the latest unstable. Even with EDIT overrides and everything, this doesn't operate. So I'm going to quickly just go ahead. Nice, it already has the Steam Deck preset. So we're going to go ahead, Steam Deck preset, which is fine, but I don't like doing any upscaling, so we're going to go ahead and take that off. I also prefer FOV of 100. We're going to go ahead and make sure all of these settings are correct. Yep, looks fine. So we'll click apply. In video, I do not want to run this crazy resolution. We're going to go down to 720p because that's a reasonable resolution to be running on a handheld. So we'll go to apply. Good, and we can see that, and maximum FPS we're going to disable because we don't want to bother with that. Alright, so we have my particular settings that I always use when running this game, when all my benchmarks, but we're going to take a look at how it runs using Proton and all the other layers that are on SteamOS. So everything's exporting through GameScope, and everything technically runs a bit better than it does on Windows. This is one of the ideal situations, are the specific games that have all of the patches that make things considerably better, to be honest, over Windows. Now, this isn't for every game, but anything that Valve has done extra work in, like Cyberpunk, like God of War, like Elden Ring, these 3 games that Valve has actually done a bit of work to make things a bit smoother. And it becomes really apparent when you take a look at, like, once we go over the fence in this benchmark here, you're going to see how smooth that is. And that particular segment, especially AMD on Windows, that gets a bit stuttery. So that is like a clear identifier of looking at performance. And we have the frame time graph up, so you'll be able to see how smooth that is. Yep. It remains super smooth still here. Now, we're not really pushing a tremendous amount of power into the device itself. We're around probably like 18 watt, 17 watt on the TDP itself. So we're looking at something that'll be a bit more powerful than the Steam Deck at this particular setting. Yeah, so for no upscaling, 720p, Steam Deck settings, FOV 100, that's actually really, really solid. Let's take a look at some other games. So I'm going to bring this up. Now, this is really curious, right? Because we should be looking at a situation here where the CPU should be auto-scaling on power, and we're getting like fluctuating FPS in a game that does not need this much. Let's go ahead and turn that off, allow tearing. What if we do taking off the frame limit? Alright, so there's that. Let me go ahead. If I'm going to like 300 FPS, obviously I'm going to burn through power. If I enable VSync, right? Alright, so that's super interesting. Something is very wrong here. This is using up a bunch of power for no reason, and I'm not even hitting 60 FPS consistently. The frame time graph is all really weird and odd. So why is that happening? And we're just chewing through a lot of CPU power for no reason. So right now, whatever it's doing is doing a poor job of balancing power and making sure this works as it should. So I'm going to quit out of this. The reason I installed this game is because typically it's a game that, even on Windows, does a really good job of self-balancing power. You don't really need to step in all that much to really do much, and it does a decent job. On Intel, this is one game that it was easy enough to always typically get down to like 5 or 6 watt total. It's pretty alarming. Okay, so we can see we're in Chimera OS, latest kernel. If I go to display, automatically set resolution. Let's instead... Alright, so I'm forcing 720p 60 here now, GameScope 5-inch display. So it notices the screen correctly, and all of this is set fine. You can already see that it's still just acting super weird. 50 FPS, 50, it's all over the place. So something is wrong there. This could potentially just be RADV with 780M. Let us open up Elden Ring and see what's up. All right, so here we are in Elden Ring, and this game obviously does run just fine. Now, the thing that I do want to note here is I've been trying to take a look at this. It does look like the CPUs aren't being leveraged correctly insofar as how 7840U wants to run them. How 7840U wants to run them typically is they have primary cores and then not primary cores. They're different performance cores. So this would be like AMD 4, AMD 4C, which is some types of things that you've heard. And AMD already marks these cores as their highest performance cores versus their lowest ones. And if you need to push frequency, it's better to go to the performance cores rather than that. And this looks like it's just round robining through all of the cores themselves, which is non-ideal for the 7840U, so we would be wasting some power there. The other thing here is that overall it looks like we're just wasting power in general. The GPU is not terribly high. It says it's only using around 10 watts, but overall we're using 28 watt from the battery itself, which is not terrible. We're close to 20 watt TDP, which we should actually be getting a little bit better performance here. However, it is very consistent. So there's kind of a weird thing that's going on. It's more or less kind of the half-bakedness that is going on with Chimera OS, specifically for the AYANEO Air 1S. I'm not saying Chimera OS is half-baked for anything else. Like for older platforms, I'm sure it's fantastic, and I need to go ahead and review some of those older platforms and get a better idea of where all of that sits. So I should really make a video on like a totality video, like looking at a bunch of different handhelds running Chimera OS, because that would be super interesting. All right, so this is Elden Ring. Let me go ahead and get out of here. All right, so here we are running God of War. This is 720p, low settings, no upscaling used whatsoever. And running decently well. We're pushing a lot of power in through the system right now, but running reasonably well. Yeah, so that is God of War running on the AYANEO Air 1S. This is with Chimera OS that is acting very much like SteamOS,